Hello again to the story of my art. This time I will speak about more artworks at the same time because they all kind of have the same origin of the inspiration or the philosophy or the experience that I would like to present through them. And these are sketch of a tree, home, floor beneath the feet, grounding into the gallery space or grounding of the church navel. So already from the titles we can see that they all kind of go around this notion of home, ground, feet, floor. So it's kind of getting in touch with the floor or grounding yourself. And the main topic of them, I would say, is how to get nature into the gallery space. How to give people the experience of being in the nature inside the gallery space. And why I wanted to do is that I wanted to bring forth the characteristics or the qualities that the being in nature brings forth in a human, what one feels, what one senses, and what is being turned on in a man, in a human, when is being in nature, how one starts to be, what is the ground from where one experiences himself or the surroundings when being in nature. And I wanted to do that because I felt like being in nature made me be more complete with myself, made me be more total. And as I was already explaining the last time, I read some theoretical work from many different authors, and one of them was also Juhani Palasma, a Finnish architect. And what I learned from that was the notion of transition of the human ways of perceiving the world through senses, and that they kind of have a certain hierarchy. That means that right now we are in an era of seeing seeing the world through the sense of eyesight. So eyes are kind of ruling the way we perceive the world. And that also means that it influences our whole way of experience, like how we perceive our surroundings through the eyesight. Eyes have this quality that they tend to focus, and their focus is very sharp, straightforward, just straight to the object they are observing. And through that observation, with a strong focus, a notion of separation comes into being, because in this observation of something with the eyes, it is very clear that you are observing something which is external and which is separate from yourself. And this also kind of makes us think in a way that we'd like to control what we are seeing, and we'd like to know about what we are seeing. We'd like to make a concept about what we are seeing. We'd like to understand what we are seeing. We'd like to put a name to what we are seeing, and all that comes from the way of experiencing through our sight. And then on the other side, you have all the other senses, which means touch, hearing, smelling, tasting, and all these other senses work in a very different kind of way. What they experience, what we experience through them, is in such a way different from our eyesight that it kind of surrounds us. It makes us a part of something which is greater than us, but in a way is also making us be more within something, not as being separated, but as being a part of something that is surrounding us. Like the the whole surroundings, the whole space which we are being aware of is kind of coming to us, not that we are choosing and pointing at something with our eyesight, but we are just letting the surroundings kind of fuse into our sense of self. And this different experience from being with the senses or being with the body is something that is being invoked when being, for example, in the forest. Because in the forest you have lots of various informations which are scattered around the whole area, and they come from all directions, and they kind of create the whole ambient. And this ambient I tried to put into the gallery space, and that's because I wanted to make clear this transition from observing an artwork with your eyes and with your intellectual kind of view into a more experiential sense, that you would be inside the artwork and be aware of it through your body or through your whole being. And why? Because it feels good, I would say, simply. It makes you more complete. It makes me more complete, sensing the world with the whole being or the whole body. So then what I did is that I was thinking about how to bring forest into the gallery space. So the first idea I had was that I really wanted to transform this notion of touching the ground with your bare feet, like connecting with your body to the ground in a very straightforward way. Through the feet, everyone is walking on their feet, everyone is having feet, everyone is walking on the ground, so this is like really something everyone does. So I just wanted to show this connection with the body and the ground we have, which is very natural and you cannot avoid it. It's very hard to avoid it. So I thought, okay, so how to bring this sensation of touching the ground into gallery space? So I was starting to collect branches in the forest, like dry branches, which fell down from the tree. So I put them on the floor and started walking on them. And then I found out it should be something softer, because the soil is soft. It's warm also sometimes, and it has leaves on it, and it has humus, which is also soft. So then I thought about taking foam. So I collected lots of old mattresses and cut them into small stripes, and then I connected them with the branches with little threads. And for this project I used a lot of time, and also lots of friends helped me to do this, which I'm very grateful for. Thank you. And as I did this, then I covered all of this with felt, so you could not really see what was below, but you could feel it. So again, it would not really make a distraction to think about what it is, but kind of just to try to observe the sensations it creates while walking on it, and kind of forgetting into the experience your thought process. And in addition to this, I also made a projection of the screens from the forest, which I took when I was in Finland. It was just like a still video of a forest which lasted for, I don't know how long anymore, maybe half an hour, maybe even more, like a couple of hours, and there was just this slight movements of nature, like because of the wind or because of the light changes of the clouds going across the sky, and very little information. But in a way, if you take time to observe, it kind of takes you into a certain mode of being just with your body or with your senses, of just being aware, like nature itself is. And so that's it. Then I just asked people to take off their shoes and step inside and experience the artwork. And in addition to that, I also made one paper where I put on some exercises which everyone could take with them outside and read them and do them, try out some experiences with senses. And later on at the end of the video I would also read that, so if you want to, you can also try yourself to make these exercises and try it out. Experiment a little bit with the senses outside. You can go maybe outside the apartment, outside the house, into the forest, or just on the street. It doesn't actually matter. What matters is that you really focus on the exercise itself. And then if I also talk a little bit about the 3 other art projects I did. So this home thing was kind of the beginning of this series, and it was like a box with made sticks and colored with red color, and then the floor was made out of straws and foam also, so it was kind of similar. And then it was meant to be experienced like with lying on it or with walking on it, and it was also small, just for one person. So the idea was like that you experiment your own personal sense of being at home, in the means like what really stays present in the moment when you forget everything, like your name, your history, your plans, your origins, your ideas, anything that is kind of stick to your being just at home with yourself. And it was a question for me, like what is it that means to be at home, even when all the material circumstances are kind of forgotten or taken away. Then what is that quality of that is inside of you being at home? And the next one was Floor Beneath the Ground. This was actually the same as in Sketch for a Tree, but just that I added some soil on top of it, and it was just made for a really small space in one day art pop-up colony. And then the third one was grounding of the gallery space, or grounding of the church navel. And this name is interesting because just the space itself was a gallery space, but in a way it looked to me like a church navel. And then there is also some kind of a similarity in the usage of gallery and the church navel. It's both used for exhibiting art pieces, of course in a very different kind of manner and for a different reason perhaps, but then it has some kind of similarity to it. And the thing with this artwork was also that I really wanted to go extreme, so I brought soil into the space. I put a huge space. We just put floor covered with soil, like 15 centimeters thick, and at some point at the back of the space where the windows are, we actually planted the real alive tree. So it was there the whole time, and it was also, we put water to it, and it survived the whole time. And then later on, I think it was planted somewhere in the city. And the idea was again the same, just to take off your shoes, step inside, and become aware of the sensations that the artwork is kind of giving you. And also the walls were covered with soil, so it was kind of all again getting like surrounded by this idea of nature, or the materials of nature, of being in nature. And well, that's it for the artworks part. And now I would like to read the text I've wrote at the time when I created the sketch of a tree work. I think it's interesting to also go back a few years and kind of reawake the thought process I had at that moment, and then at the end I will also read the exercises. So, as I said, I will now read the text that I wrote in 2016 for this exhibition. I'm interested in space as an experience. I want to create an atmosphere, an ambient architecture. Which aspects of a situation define our being, doing, thinking, sensing, relations to others, objects, and space? Which aspects of the space are bringing forth certain behavior, thoughts, and emotions? This is a beginning of a research. It is starting by the senses, primary functions of awareness experienced in the world, which eventually form thoughts, imagination, and our emotions. A picture or a TV screen, or a computer screen, a mobile phone screen, or any kind of a two-dimensional flat surface medium of the visual means being confronted with a certain definite range of qualities. Watching a surface, a picture, means watching a built together surface. The way we are watching it is creating memories, imprints of information in our brain and body. To step into my skin, I would name a bodily event, a state of being when the mind is somewhere in harmony with the movement and the thought. I walk through the forest and experience it as a space. It is surrounding. I see the tree and I would like to take a closer look. I approach and the roughness of the bark invites me to touch. Some say that we look with hands. Some say that all our senses are some kinds of evolutional progresses of touch, developed skin. Even our eyes are covered with a thin surface of skin. Even our gaze is touching, but it's also much more. I would like to see less and sense more. The gaze is choosing, selecting, cutting, controlling, manipulating. I would like to create a space which awakes a different kind of state of observing, the body observing. In everyday life, we become aware of our bodies when something is wrong, when it hurts, calling for attention. We become aware of the situation when the normal is crushed, when the equilibrium is disharmonized. I decided to shatter the floor beneath and blur the references for the gaze, which give it a strong position and the possibility to control, perhaps even the possibility of awareness, of knowing where I am or who I am. I choose forest as a basic image. For me, forest is of many beautiful and similar sensations. Forest is of many static places, which consist of individual trees relating to each other and space growing into a whole ecosystem, determined by the planet and the galaxy. Forest is like flesh covering the bones. A small movement of a single muscle is changing the whole constellation of the body. A body like that is also the forest. Being inside is becoming a part of this whole. Forest interests me as a space. It consists of opposites, embodying an ideal of a being for me. It's static and dynamic. The static posture of the tree is always swung by the wind's breeze. The crowns are searching for the sun and playing a game of shadows in the space around them with the neighboring trees and plants. There are always uncountable amounts of relations that form a whole melody of life, defining each particle and all of them at the same time. Let's pick the shadows thrown upon the space around the crowns. It's governing the possibilities for the smaller plants where to grow, and further, the small plants are deciding for a drop of rain where to drain into the ground, and the multitude of particles, organic and inorganic beings and stuff in the ground is then forming a path for the drop, and the flow continues, so on. Seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, tasting, and understanding separate things, matters, happenings, stuff, and their relationships are sensations. But before I open up this page of sensation, I would like to find the coordinates of myself, the observing point where it all begins. What is our space? Of what space we consist, what space we fill in, what is forming ourselves as spatial. What is forming our spatial awareness nowadays? It could be standards, many different standards. Length, height, depth, materials, surfaces, colors, functionality, aesthetics. Quality is determined by the quantities. It's defining our being through numbers. The body is a measurement to be measured. Then we measure many bodies and define an average, to which we then determine a certain value of function and comfort in a relation with what is at hand and what we know and desire. Standard as furniture, chairs, tables, closets, height of the wall and length of the room, the sizes of clothes, the widths of the roads, plans of houses and towns, the arrangements of chairs around the table in a restaurant, paths and sidewalks, which are being chosen by the steps of our feet being used to the asphalt and the paved roads. Culture and civilization, cities, designs, architectures, plans, sketches, thoughts. I want to begin at the moment, right here and now, in a small student dorm. This is my situation. I'm writing this text. In here, there is barely enough space for a single bed, small study table, and a closet. There is a single window and a single door leading to the kitchen and the common areas of the student dorm. There are 2 toilets and a bathroom. In the kitchen, there are 6 chairs around the table, as many as there are rooms in the apartment. The place of the social activities is the kitchen. There we eat, sit, cook, watch, talk, play games, etc. In our rooms, we are alone. Opposite my window, there is a square yard. On the yard, I haven't seen a single person hanging out in half a year time, but there have been some passing through. The yard has some trees, green spots, and asphalt squares. The trees are aligned in rectangular shaped patterns. On the other side of the yard, there is another apartment block. On the right and the left, the lines of the apartment houses almost continue endlessly. Above, I can see the sky covered with puffy clouds colored in orange shades. My body is in this moment in a certain situation. It's defined by the shape of my chair, the height of my desk, and the placement of both amongst the other stuff in my room. I'm sitting in front of a window in the left furthest away spot from the entrance to the room. I'm typing now, but I'm not aware of the movements of my fingers and the way I sit and work. I'm letting my attention follow the stream of my thought forming this text. I can feel warmth of my body. I'm dressed in loose cotton clothes, a thin sweater and thin pants. I can feel the pressure in my feet. I can sense the blood stream in my vessels. I sense my body weighing down against the surface of the chair, and the weight of my head pushing down against the spine and the rib cage through buttocks and legs until my feet. Some parts are felt as if the objects would be pushing against me up, and on the others the feeling is more relaxed, as if falling down. What thought and sense do I make of my room? It's a place where I'm sleeping, working, eating, watching movies, writing, drawing, doing yoga. Mostly I'm here alone with my activities. Is this room a home? Is it just a standard? What kind of a space is it? What kind of a space is home? I think I don't trust my room anymore, therefore I'm looking for home in space. First I will search to the space of my body, but how? How to enter the body and how to let it be opened? Perhaps we could try to sense the inner space of our body. Perhaps we could try to sense the space surrounding us. Perhaps we could engage in thinking, arts, images, music, human relations, constellations, spaces. Well, let's try. I have a simple exercise for you. So now I will read the paper with exercises which I talked about before. Read the following slowly and leave the sheet behind and follow the instructions as reference points you can keep in your thoughts throughout the exercise. Step outside the gallery space into the street. Find yourself a comfortable place. Follow something that you find interest in and calm down at that place for a few seconds. Just stand or sit. Then close your eyes and listen to the sounds coming from the surroundings. Listen to everything you can hear from all the directions at the same time. It may not be that easy, but you can try it. Then shift to a single sound that catches your attention. Listen to different intensities of the sound. Try to find the sources of the sounds. Just listen. And stay with this hearing exercise as long as you feel comfortable and interested. After that, you can open your eyes. Stay where you are or choose another place. Similarly, as with sounds, you can now experiment with different ways of observing, watching, gazing. You can zoom in into a single detail and watch it closely, and after that from a further away distance. Then you can try to shift between watching everything at once, what your eyesight catches, and looking focused at a single object. Perhaps try not to do everything at once. Take time to calm down and observe. Experiment with the sight as long as you find it interesting. Do not hesitate to move around as you find interest in different kinds of shapes, colors, and textures. After that, you can try to become aware of the sense of the skin. So far, you have gone through the eyes and the ears. You can try to observe the relation that touch is creating with our senses. You can observe the relation of the eyes and the skin, how something that you see is interesting in a way that you have to touch it, and then you can close your eyes and try to see with your hands. Then observe the sensations that your clothes give to you among the whole scale of your body, how your shirt is hanging on your skin. Sense your feet touching the ground, sense the air surrounding, the temperature, warm or cold, or however you call the sensations that emerge. Just try to sense. The words I give to you are not suggestions passing through, a way of me being capable of expressing a number of manners of how to observe your body in relation to the situation, the space. It is up to you what you will experience if you engage in this exercise. Let yourself be led by what is interesting for you. When you finish with the exercises, you can come back and take an empty sheet of paper and write down a diary of experience. Draw it or however you'd like to leave a mark of it. You can put the paper on the wall of the gallery space. And as you have listened now to this video, I would also like to encourage you that if you would like to do these exercises also still now, do it, and then you can also write your experience and post it on Facebook or write an email to me or however you'd like to do that. And enjoy. Thank you for listening, and if you'd like to, you can also check other videos on the story of my art or my website, which is written down in the description. Thank you.